Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. I'm Sean,
I am Anthony.
and we are going to give you a spoiler-free review reaction to Robert Morgan's Stopmotion. Then we're going to give you ample warning, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, full spoiler. So, Anthony, you saw this last night. I saw it 2 days ago, so it's a little bit fresher in your mind. Without going into any spoilers, what did you think about Robert Morgan's Stopmotion?
I think it's one of it will be one of the highlights of the year. I know it's fairly early on, but this one, it's it's definitely got a texture to it that sticks to you when you're done watching the movie.
Well said.
And I will say it isn't for everyone, but for those that are looking for something unique that manages to intrigue, horrify, disgust, and overall just have you continually locked on the screen or wherever you have a chance to watch this film. This is definitely up your alley. This is something special, but grotesque. So, I mean, bear that in mind. I thought it was sensational, near perfect film, in all honesty. I thought it was that fucking good. What about you?
Man, I was just blown the fuck away. So it was not in the theater by me, but I had happened to go to Nashville over the weekend to see Tenant's big IMAX re-release. And I noticed when I came out of that movie, I was like, oh shit, they've got fucking stop motion. So we came back like 2 days later, and man, I was mesmerized. It is exactly what you say. I feel like, oh, man, for people that don't know, so the whole movie is not stop motion. I feel like that's a misconception now that I've heard a couple times. It integrates real actors and like a normal movie's kind of plot with stop motion because it's about a girl working on a stop motion movie. And I'll just say that the lines begin to blur where the movie starts and or stops and her reality ends. Um, it is gross as fuck. The sound design is just absolutely to die for because you can give me a separating wound visually and it won't do half as much to gross me out as if you put the right sounds to it. And they just spent so much time and energy on the sound. I love that. I'm a sound guy. So yeah, that made it. And I thought I'm gonna try to say the lead actress's name and fail miserably. But Aisling Francois, I'm sure that's wrong.
Francois?
Yeah, that's as good a guess as I had there. People will know her from Game of Thrones, The Nightingale, and The Fall, none of which I've seen.
Wait, she was in The Fall?
Apparently, yeah.
Is she one of the two lead gals in it?
Maybe. I don't know. It just says The Fall
Wow.
2013. I never saw that, so.
Okay,
Oh,
I don't
this
think I know.
this is not the movie. This is the TV show.
Okay, I definitely don't know that one then.
Okay, it's the one with Gillian Anderson and John Lynch. So anyway, whatever. But yeah, I mean, fuck, Robert Morgan, I believe this was his debut. So
Yeah.
wherever you go, I will follow, sir.
Yeah, I was looking up some of the titles of his stop motion shorts. I think he's got one called like The Cat with Hands or something like that. I have to see these things. So I want to hunt these down and look at them because they seem very interesting.
It's so funny because as an anecdote, my good friend Brown and we had a small obsession with have you ever seen Grey Gardens? Not the movie, but the documentary.
No, I can't say that I have.
It's about this old woman and this younger, like middle-aged woman. They're relatives of the Kennedys somehow. I don't remember anymore, but they live in squalor. They're hoarders. This is
Oh,
before.
dude, yeah, I have seen that
Okay.
actually. Yeah,
And
I have seen.
there's a scene in that movie where I swear to God, we thought there was a cat with hands. And then so it was a joke forever after with us, the cat with hands. And I looked this guy up and he's got a movie called Anyway, sorry. This movie, dude, you're right. The texture, I love the way you said that. It leaves a texture, a film on your skin that does not come off right away. Not in the way that Irreversible did.
No, not like that.
No, it's not that kind of gross. But it's gross and disturbing, and it's it is paced slowly, so it will drive some people crazy. So just bear that in mind. But I implore you, if this even sounds anywhere near up your alley or you're interested in it, if you can see it in the theater still, it might be out by the time this goes up. There might be 1 day left with it in the theater. So unfortunately, we were late kind of getting this review in. But again, I didn't even know that I was going to be able to see it in the theater until a few days ago. So
And I'm so glad we were able to. And as far as pacing or anything like that, I mean, runtime is only an hour 33.
I
So
know.
it's not, yeah, it's not a long film, but it's, I can see how some people would be deterred, because I've heard a couple different things now where people are saying it doesn't have enough stop motion in it.
I don't
And
buy
I'm like,
that.
well, it's sprinkled throughout the film. And you know, there's plenty of stuff to be intrigued by that's going on aside from that,
Yeah, agreed.
because the actress that plays Ella, she's putting on a shot, man, for everybody. Like she's doing a great fucking job across the board with what she does. And we'll get into that right now in the spoiler section. But I mean, I don't think there was a bad performance in the
No.
film. I think everybody with the exception of the gal that plays Ella, everybody's serviceable, and does a pretty good job of the, you know, portraying the character traits that they need to.
Hmm.
But the main actress and the mother are just fucking tense. I mean, they're amazing, incredible acting from both of those women. Fantastic performances there. But yeah, man, this movie, it's funny, in my notes I wrote down, it's a film you can almost smell.
Yeah, that's a good description.
It's just, I mean, it really does have a way of attacking you, all of your senses simultaneously.
Yes.
And I think that assault on the senses is what uh, left a more chilling, haunting effect, you know, afterward, after having viewed it. And no, I was, dude, I went out to go to like Slater's 50/50s to have a burger afterward, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this sandwich because it is rough. And it's funny too, because I met up with Cecilia and Cody right afterward, and they were, you know, just asking how the film was, and the gal at the register where they were at was like, "Oh, did you just watch that movie?" And I was like, "Oh, so you've seen it too?" And she was like, "How did you get through it?" She said, "I barely made it through it,"
Oh,
because she was
wow.
an average film goer who had been recommended the film. And I was like, "Wow, you're a fucking trooper." So I was proud of her for that. So yeah, but without further ado, Sean, do you want to go into spoilers on this, and
Yeah.
let's
So,
pick it
the,
apart a little bit?
listeners, this is your warning. If you haven't seen Stop Motion, stop listening now. Full spoilers ahead. So, I got to tell you, one of my favorite parts in this movie, and there were many, the party. And
Yeah,
not just because you get the image that I've seen it now associated with the movie where it's that like puppet,
yeah,
but you know, there's this setup earlier where Ella's boyfriend's sister is like, oh, she works in a similar like video animating kind of job. Well, she actually works for somebody in an ad agency, and Ella refuses to do that because she's like an artist or whatever. But the sister says, I get my best ideas when I'm tripping my balls off or when I'm tripping my tits off. Then at this party, Ella's like, do you have any? So she gives her a square of acid. And then you go through this really like just lush, gorgeous, freaky as all fucking hell, like trip sequence. And then the next day, the boyfriend's like, did my sister give you something? She's like, yeah, I didn't take it. It's right here. And I was like, oh man, I don't care where it goes from here. That was fucking amazing. Well played.
And it's funny because you and I had spoken after the film where we couldn't well, not we, but I couldn't quite decide whether or not there's a malevolent force at play, and if this is just like, her being taken over by whatever force that may be. Because obviously, yeah, when you find out she didn't take any of the drugs, you're kind of like, well, then what the fuck was all
Yeah.
that? But I mean, masterful screen work there. I mean, she's again able to emote and portray these different facets of this character that's created, and exceptionally well.
Yeah.
So she's downright terrifying during that scene. And when you watch her, she becomes, kind of goes, almost feral at points, and you see, um, much like the beginning of the film, because it's from that
Yep.
scene where you're seeing this like this duality of her personality, where there's the one that's cut loose and doing what she wants to do, and free essentially, and not under the her mother's thumb, not having to be this timid, shy character. And you see all that facade come away, and during that scene, during that party scene anyway, and see who she really is and what she wants to be, and what she wants to be enthralled by, engrossed by, whatever you want to say. But I mean, she's fucking amazing in that. And then for some reason, the little girl's there.
So, and the idea here is, and if you're listening to this, you've seen this, so I don't want to belabor
We're
this.
hoping.
Yeah, we're hoping. I don't want to belabor the setup. So the little girl that seems to be goading her, my interpretation of this is, because there is a point where you're like, okay, is she like a demon or something? But my interpretation is this is her imagination, which was basically shunted by her mother, right? And so this is where her imagination comes out, and that's because there's a quote in there where she says, and she's having a conversation with her mother, who's like in a coma or something. So it's not even a conversation with her actual mother; it's with herself. And she says something to her mother like, "I'm like you. I can't get." What is the? I forget what the line is. It's essentially she says something like, "I'm like you. My imagination runs away with me," or something. And mother says, "Yeah, but you can't control yours." And so that made me think, yeah, this is definitely this repressed imagination that's dark. Like she has this dark feral streak, like you said, and now it's just loose. Now that the mother's out of the picture, it's just bubbling up and really taking over.
And she's a young person, so to be under this thumb for so long, and to come out without any real scruples behind it's unbridled. And that's where some of the brutality comes out later on, as you see. And the all the unhinged stuff that comes with that. So quick synopsis to that. Her mother was this brilliant stop motion filmmaker who lost the ability to use her hands, and the daughter has basically assumed that role for her. It's like, well, I might as well just live this way, and I want to finish my greatest work, and I'm going to have her do it for me. And it's just cruel. It's
Yeah.
cruel punishment, and it's the way this gal grows up and has to deal with her mother like that. And there's this one scene where she's finally fed up with her, and she makes steak for her for breakfast. I don't know who the fuck wakes up in the morning and wants a giant steak for breakfast. It is a pretty gnarly scene, actually, and it kind of turned my stomach a bit. I'm not a big steak eater in general, so it was one of those things when you see her refusing to cut the steak and help feed her mother, and her mom has to like resort to these animalistic, grunting and like using like her clawed hands to try to uh, grasp the steak and gnaw at it and chew it and tear it apart with her mouth. It's a vile
Yeah.
thing to watch, but it's like, well, but what else would you do if you have no other option? So it was kind of crazy to see how she opted to kind of punish her for that later on.
Yeah.
It's that dynamic is fucked up, and it's odd because it's such a small portion of the film. Because the mom's only around for the first third, and before she passes away. But everything beyond that point, when she has this psychological break and the little girl shows up, who's supposed to be a neighbor in this building, but one of the red flags there was that the building's abandoned, so why would there be a neighbor there?
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. So it kind of had like random squatters there. If it seemed like that was the case, the boyfriend owned this building and nobody's supposed to live there, but I think just random people in the art scene happened to just stay there. But he gave her pretty much an entire floor to work on by herself, to where she would be uninterrupted to work on this film, because she still felt compelled to finish the film after her mom died. An odd notion, because you think she'd want to get as far away from all that shit as possible, and then you just see the descent into madness from that point on. And oh my god, watching these stop motion puppets come to life, and the extent to which she goes to really give them more flesh-like elements is just fucking disturbing. And yeah, Sean, if you want to touch on that.
I mean, just the way that it escalates. This movie reminds me a lot of Prano Bailey Bond's Censor, and it's a similar break and parting with reality, that the way that it slowly evolves and what it becomes, and how submerged the character gets in this, whatever this is in her head, this fantasy reality. And so, yeah, and that's kind of her sticking point at first with the little girls. Like, you need to make this puppet out of something. I forget how she words it, but she basically, like, first it's meat, right? And then it's a dead fox. And that's like that's Ella's sticking point at first. She's like, no, this is disgusting. It's my film. And then after the the quote unquote drug sequence, the girl shows up with like fox-like makeup on, and that's where the girl's not real, because it's like, why is she at this fucking like party? And she leaves with her and takes directly back to the fox. And then Ella says, I see this now. This is how it has to be. And then so she takes the corpse, cuts it up with a box cutter. And for anyone worried about like animal violence, they don't show, it's close-ups of them cutting meat. So it's not like you're actually seeing anything that's, distasteful. I mean, it's distasteful, but not like animal violence distasteful. But yeah, the puppets and just the fucking noises that go along, like the female puppet, she has these like these creepy fucking moaning noises that are just, oh my god.
Let's talk about the sound for a second. So all these puppets are created by, there's the armature, the skeleton underneath the bottom, at the bottom, and they creak and make these metal on metal sounds. That's a great song, actually, Metal on Metal from Anvil. But it's interesting how the director ended up using these sounds in her everyday life. So there's a lovemaking scene where it almost seems as though she's posing her lover over her, and you hear these creaks. It's this the screeching metal sound, and then it just becomes more prominent throughout the film, to where it's almost everything that moves makes the sound, and it's just part of this maddening soundscape in the background that increases the level of anxiety and intensity in the film. So there's that, and then there's the flesh. Obviously, there's all these really nasty squelching sounds to all the cutting and meat. So the sound effects guy, fucking incredible. You did an amazing job. Hats off. You've unnerved me with all that stuff. And then just that paired with what you're seeing on screen is it just makes it that much more uh it just makes you want to cringe. And at everything, because there's so much stuff that on there that's disgusting to a point where you it's just revolting at times. And again, like I said earlier, it's almost a film you can smell because she continues to work with these characters, little caricatures that she's made, and hasn't bothered to clean up. So there's like rotting meat all over the place. There's
Everywhere.
blood all over the place. It looks like a murder scene, but nothing has happened. And then yeah, but the sound design, fantastic. I can't say that I've been, unnerved by certain sounds like that in a film in a long time. So this has been very effective in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I call out a lot of sound recently, but this was like it just added a level, a layer to it that uh and hence on the big screen, like I'm so happy that they were able to get this. So this is IFC and Shutter, and I'm just so happy that they were able to get this, even if it was, I don't know if it was out a week. Maybe it'll be out longer. I'm not sure. It looks like it's already falling off, like by me. I don't know about by you if that's the case. But and I don't know. I checked to see if they have like a solicited date for when it's going to hit Shutter. I don't see anything yet.
So I heard end of May. And then as far as the film in theaters goes, I think it's not going to last a week. It's already down to 2 showings and 1 showing by like today.
Okay,
So it might be floating around somewhere. But for any of our listeners that have a chance to go see this theatrically, like now's the time. This
do
is
it.
another one of the things where, much like, when Evil Lurks, it was a very limited thing. You maybe got a week. You're in that week now, so make it count.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but I agree, man. It's definitely it's early, but I feel like there's almost no fucking way this is not going to be on my top 10 list of 2024.
It just checks all the boxes. Now, granted, again, it's not for everybody, but it's got an artistic style that also touches on body horror.
Yeah, big time.
Obviously there's the, amazing stop motion artwork that goes into this. There's also, gore. There is a body count. It's not very high, but I mean, there are people that are murdered and dispatched in it, in a gruesome way. There's also this fantasy element to it also, where basically she gets told by her mother, like, when the puppet's no longer needed, the puppet gets put back in the box. And there's this whole other element to the film that is only touched on briefly, but shown. And dude, I can't even begin to explain like how horrible that ending was for me, when it's like, this is your fate.
Yeah.
It's just, everything about this film is unnerving. Everything about this film is hard to wash off. Last night, like I said, when I got out of that theater, I had this gross feeling all over me. I mean, it's a big fucking downer, obviously. This movie has no happy ending. There is no Hollywood ending to it. This is exactly what you would expect from a lot of up and coming artists these days, where this is what we're doing now. We're giving you this, really drab, bleak as fuck film, and this is just right in line with all that. And whether or not you are, in tune to a lot of these cool art styles and just different ways of expressing film, I think the listeners would really enjoy this one going into it. I think it's not a bad recommendation. And even if this isn't like your standard cup of tea, you're at least going to get some exposure to something amazing, because this is the first thing like this that I've seen all year. And there was nothing like this last year. This is a fucking bonkers film that definitely deserves to be watched and paid attention to. So, much like I say when I recommend a lot of films, I implore people to go out and watch it, because it is quite the spectacle. It is a spectacle.
Agreed. Okay, well, that's Robert Morgan's Stop Motion. And Yeah, I wish I could see it one more time in the theater. But
Same.
I mean, if I get the chance, I will. I'll drive for it. I'll drive again, but I don't think it's going to happen. So we're recording this Thursday, the 29th. I'm going to try to get this up tonight. So hopefully maybe we'll be able to reach a couple people that could see it. I mean, there might even be a lot of times movies are gone on Friday because I don't know what's opening, but whatever. So hopefully, but if not, end of May, Shudder, that'll be fantastic. And just, like Anthony said, this deserves to be paid attention to.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. For the Horror Vision, I am Sean.
I am Anthony.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20, soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus.